That night, as the alien occupation forces establish their first ground base in what used to be Central Park, Elena slips through the shadows of New Shanghai's underground tunnels. The once bustling financial district lies eerily silent above, its skyscrapers now docking stations for Zalthori shuttlecraft. She navigates by memory through maintenance passages that the aliens' advanced scanning technology hasn't yet mapped. "You're late," General Hammond whispers as Elena enters the abandoned subway maintenance room. A dozen faces turn toward her. All that remains of Earth's military leadership not yet processed for reassignment. "Security's tighter than expected," Elena responds, brushing dust from her stolen maintenance uniform. "They're cataloging humans by profession. Scientists and engineers are being separated for special work details." Hammond's weathered face darkens. "Extracting our best minds. Classic colonial tactic." "But they're making mistakes," Elena says, pulling out a small device she'd managed to pocket from the dismantling of her ship. "They're arrogant, watch this." She activates the device, a standard neural interface translator, modified to play back her recorded observations. The holographic display shows Zalthori officers reacting with visible confusion to human behavior. A child's drawing that depicts impossible physics, a chef improvising when ingredients run out, two guards playing rock, paper, scissors to decide a patrol route. "They don't understand randomness," Elena explains. "Their evolutionary path favored predictability. Their homeworld had few predators, stable weather patterns, and abundant resources. They never needed to adapt quickly or think outside established patterns." "Fascinating weaknesses," Dr. Yamamoto says, emerging from the shadows. The former head of xenobiology studies the recordings intently. "But they control orbital weapons that could vaporize continents. How does this help us?" Elena's eyes reflect the dim emergency lighting with sudden intensity. "Because while they're studying our technology, they should be studying our history. Humans have consistently overcome superior forces through asymmetric thinking. The Zalthori expect resistance to follow logical patterns: direct confrontation, sabotage of critical systems, assassination attempts, so we'll do what they can't predict." "Which is?" Hammond asks. "We'll appear to cooperate while building something they can't detect because they can't conceive of it," Elena says, revealing a crude map of global mining operations the Zalthori have established. "They're connecting our planet's communication infrastructure to their network for efficiency. They think our technology is too primitive to pose any threat, so we use that underestimation against them," finishes Hammond, the first trace of hope crossing his face. The meeting continues past midnight, plans forming and evolving in ways the rigid minds of their conquerors could never anticipate. As dawn approaches, Elena makes her way back to the processing center where she's expected to report for assignment. Passing a shattered storefront, she notices a small girl hiding among the ruins, clutching a tattered stuffed animal. Elena kneels, offering the child a ration bar from her pocket. "What's your name?" she asks softly. "Sophia," the girl whispers. "Are the monsters going to eat us?" Elena shakes her head, something resolute hardening in her gaze. "No, Sophia. They think they've conquered us, but they don't understand what humans are capable of when we have no choice but to win." She glances up at the massive alien command ship hovering above the city skyline. "And that's going to be their biggest mistake." Marcus carefully slides the brain tissue sample under the molecular scanner, grateful that the Zalthori consider themselves too advanced to monitor human scientific methods. They simply demand results, assuming the primitive humans will use the most straightforward approaches. This blind spot has become his greatest asset. "Record findings, test series 23, he whispers to his hidden recorder. The lab's official Zalthori surveillance systems pick up only the approved research he conducts during daylight hours. These midnight investigations remain his secret. The neural structure materializes on his tablet screen, confirming what previous tests suggested. Zalthori synaptic pathways show remarkable efficiency but minimal redundancy. Neural connections are highly specialized with almost no cross-connectivity between brain regions. He zooms in, excitement building. Unlike human brains, which create new neural pathways throughout life, Zalthori brain development appears to stop completely after adolescence. A soft chime from his modified communicator interrupts his work. The message comes through on PhantomNet, Sasha's underground communication system. Meeting tonight, significant developments. Usual place. E. Across the occupied city, Sasha adds another node to the growing PhantomNet infrastructure. The basement of the abandoned library provides perfect cover. The Zalthori have no interest in physical books, considering them obsolete technology. She connects the jury-rigged server to the power grid through a converter that disguises its energy signature as routine climate control functions. "How many users now?" asks Raj, her former classmate and now resistance partner. "Almost 16,000 across 6 continents," Sasha answers, pride momentarily breaking through her perpetual exhaustion. "The European network connected successfully last night. We're experiencing minimal packet loss despite the Zalthori jammers." Raj whistles appreciatively. "They're looking for traditional radio transmissions and quantum entanglement. They never considered we'd use modified power line communication. It's too primitive for them to bother monitoring." Sasha tightens the final connection and watches the status lights blink to life. Their technology might span galaxies, but they have one critical vulnerability. She taps her temple. They think linearly. They can't imagine solutions outside their established parameters. Later that evening, in an abandoned subway maintenance tunnel, Elena meets with both Marcus and Sasha for the first time. Their individual discoveries, when combined, form the foundation of something revolutionary. The Zalthori brain, physically, cannot adapt to novel situations quickly, Marcus explains, showing his neural scans. Their intelligence is formidable but narrowly channeled. They excel at optimizing known processes but struggle with true innovation. Which explains why PhantomNet works, Sasha adds. They're searching for communications that match their understanding of how advanced species should communicate. Our outdated methods are invisible to them because they'd never consider using them. Elena absorbs this information, pieces falling into place. So their greatest strength, technological advancement, has created their greatest weakness. Inflexibility. She pulls out a small holographic projector showing Zalthori patrol patterns. They've maintained identical security rotations for 3 months. When environments remain stable, they see no reason to introduce variables. Exactly, Marcus confirms. While human history is defined by adaptation to changing circumstances, their evolutionary history rewarded consistency and optimization of existing systems. Elena's eyes gleam with newfound determination. Then we give them what they've never faced before, an enemy that continuously changes tactics, targets, and methods. Not just unpredictable, unpredictably unpredictable. For the first time since the invasion, something like hope spreads through the dimly lit chamber. Governor Verkrath's mandibles click with impatience as he concludes his tour of the cultural exhibition. "Sufficient," he announces to his anxious human curator. "Your species' artistic output will be catalogued appropriately in the Imperial Archives, under primitive aesthetic attempts." The curator bows deeply, hiding his smile. What the governor fails to notice is how visitors linger before certain paintings, their personal devices capturing not just images but embedded data. Each brushstroke in Miyako Tanaka's abstract landscape contains micro-patterns visible only through specialized filters, patterns that translate to detailed schematics for disrupting Zalthori energy distribution networks. After the governor departs, the exhibition transforms. The seemingly random movements of dancers become precise instructions, demonstrating how to move undetected through Zalthori security grids by exploiting their predictable scanning patterns. Musicians play harmonies that sound pleasing to human ears, but contain subsonic frequencies that interfere with alien auditory implants. Not enough to alert them, just enough to create minor discomfort that shortens their patrol durations. Across the occupied city, similar cultural events flourish under Zalthori tolerance. The aliens permit these gatherings as psychological release valves, believing art holds no strategic value. They cannot comprehend that every performance, every exhibition, Every street musician's melody carries layers of resistance. Meanwhile, Elena walks the sterile corridors of the administrative complex, her translator badge granting access to restricted areas. Her perfect memory records everything: patrol schedules, security protocols, resource allocations. Most valuable are the unguarded conversations between Zalthori officials who consider her a mere translation tool rather than an intelligent observer. The Arcturus sector rebellion grows troublesome, Sub-Commander Vexnar tells his superior, while Elena translates a routine maintenance report nearby. 3 more mining colonies have ceased production. The Supreme Executor has dispatched the 17th Fleet, comes the reply. But this stretches our defensive capabilities. We've had to reduce patrols in 6 other sectors. Elena keeps her expression neutral, though her pulse quickens. The intelligence confirms what they've suspected. The mighty empire has overextended itself, maintaining control through fear rather than actual overwhelming presence. That evening, she meets Marcus in an abandoned service tunnel beneath what used to be Central Park. The tunnel's unique mineral composition naturally blocks Zalthori scanning technology, another oversight born of their assumption that humans wouldn't understand. The scientific principles involved. They're pulling ships from the Proxima Centauri outpost, Elena reports, sketching a star chart from memory. Their supply lines are stretched thin, and there's something else. They're nervous about something called the convergence. It seems to be some kind of astronomical event with religious significance. Marcus nods, adding this to their growing knowledge base. We've made another discovery about their physiology, he responds. Their visual processing is extraordinarily precise but lacks peripheral sensitivity. They literally cannot see what's not directly in front of them without turning their heads. Perfect for our next phase, Elena says, unfolding detailed plans for what they've codenamed Operation Shadow Step. We'll need to coordinate with resistance cells globally through PhantomNet. As they discuss the operation, resistance members arrive in small groups, moving with the carefully practiced patterns taught through dance performances. Artists, scientists, former soldiers, and civilians united by a common purpose: to exploit every weakness, every blind spot in their occupiers' rigid thinking. The Zalthori believe they understand us completely, Elena tells the assembled group. Their anthropologists have categorized human behavior into predictable patterns, but they've missed something fundamental about our species. Her eyes shine with fierce determination. We are at our most dangerous when we're creating something new. The emergency evacuation sirens wail throughout the diplomatic complex as Sasha's carefully planted devices activate simultaneously. Alien delegates rush in controlled panic toward their designated evacuation points, their disciplined movements disrupted by conflicting emergency protocols. In the confusion, Elena slips away from her translator post and moves against the flow of evacuees. A maintenance pass clipped to her uniform granting her access to restricted sections. Eastern Corridor secure, comes a whispered update through her modified earpiece. The voice belongs to Commander Rodriguez, formerly of Earth's disbanded Special Forces, now leading a shadow team of infiltration specialists. You have 4 minutes before security systems reset. Elena quickens her pace, navigating through service passages. The Vrax Elder awaits in a decontamination chamber, crystalline body glittering under emergency lighting. Unlike most species, who communicate through sound or chemical signals, the Vrax transmit information through complex light patterns, a method the Zalthori consider primitive despite its sophistication. The interference is effective, the Vrax Elder communicates, light patterns dancing across its faceted surface. Elena's modified contact lenses translate. The Zalthori communications are temporarily blind. We may speak freely. The broadcast. Reached the other delegations? Elena asks. All received the transmission. The evidence of Zalthori deception is disturbing, but not surprising. They have told each subjugated world different stories about the others. To us, they claimed humans were violent conquerors who would destroy our crystalline habitats. To the methane-breathing Kull, they described your species as fanatical oxygen evangelists who would convert their atmosphere. Elena nods grimly. Divide and isolate. Classic Imperial strategy. What happens now? The Vrax's surface ripples with what Elena recognizes as their equivalent of determination. For 5 centuries we believed ourselves alone in resistance. Your species has achieved in months what none have accomplished in millennia, creating connections between the oppressed. The delegates are shaken, questioning centuries of imperial propaganda. A chime from Elena's communicator signals time, running short. We need your quantum entanglement technology to strengthen our communication network, she says. In exchange, we offer our adaptive encryption methods. An alliance between such different species is unprecedented, the Virax observes, light patterns shifting to convey curiosity. What guarantees do we have that humans would not become the next oppressors? Elena's answer comes without hesitation. None but this: diversity is our strength, not our weakness. Earth has thousands of cultures, languages, and perspectives. We've learned, often painfully, that domination brings temporary control, but cooperation brings lasting progress. The Vrax's surfaces flash with what Elena's lenses translate as the closest approximation to laughter. How fascinating. The very quality the Zalthori dismiss as chaotic inefficiency may be the galaxy's salvation. Their conversation is interrupted by Rodriguez's urgent voice. Security protocols rebooting. 60 seconds to extraction. As Elena prepares to leave, the Vrax elder extends a crystalline appendage, light pulsing in a formal pattern. The Vrax consortium commits to your resistance. We have hidden resources even the Zalthori have not discovered. But more importantly, we offer something you will need in the coming conflict: legitimacy among the elder species of this galaxy. Elena accepts the gesture with a respectful bow. Together, then, for a different kind of future. As she slips back into the chaos of the evacuation, emergency lights still flashing, Elena can't suppress a smile. The Zalthori expected to showcase Earth's submission to the assembled galactic powers. Instead, they've unwittingly hosted the birth of the first truly interspecies alliance in galactic history. The destruction of Proxima Colony registers as little more than statistical data to the Zalthori High Command, a necessary correction to maintain imperial order. They do not mourn the 20,000 colonists, nor do they consider the psychological impact of such brutality on other subjugated worlds. Their tactical computers predict a 97% chance that resistance activities will decrease by 63% across all occupied territories following this demonstration of power. The tactical computers are wrong. In the hidden command center beneath the ruins of Old Montreal, Elena watches real-time updates flood the newly enhanced PhantomNet displays. The quantum entanglement nodes provided by the Virax have exponentially increased their communication capabilities, allowing for instantaneous coordination between resistance cells across not just Earth, but 37 worlds. They've made a critical miscalculation, she tells the assembled War Council, an unprecedented gathering of species representatives linked through secure channels. The destruction of Proxima wasn't meant to terrify us into submission. It was meant to demonstrate that resistance is futile and illogical. For a species that values logic above all, they understand remarkably little about the emotional responses of others, observes the Cole representative, his methane-breathing apparatus, hissing softly. Fear can paralyze, yes, but it can also galvanize. Marcus projects his latest findings onto the central holographic display. The Zalthori expect us to react according to their probability models. Their understanding of sentient psychology is entirely based on rational self-preservation. They cannot conceive of sacrifice, of valuing principles above survival, which is why our counterstrike must happen simultaneously across all theaters. Elena continues. Not just military targets, but cultural and symbolic ones. We're not just fighting their ships and weapons. We're fighting their entire worldview. Sasha, now coordinating a global network of hackers, steps forward. The virus packages are ready for deployment. Once introduced into their command networks, they'll create cascading failures in targeting systems. Their ships will identify each other as hostile. A weakness born of their greatest strength, notes the crystalline Vrax ambassador. Their perfect uniformity makes them vulnerable to system-wide disruption. Elena studies the galactic map, human, determination reflected in her eyes. The Ninth Fleet approaching Earth represents nearly 20% of their total military assets. If we can neutralize it without destroying it entirely, we'll gain both tactical advantage and psychological victory. The Droma hive mind representative, appearing as a swarm of luminescent insects forming a roughly humanoid shape, pulses with agreement. Our predictive algorithms suggest the Emperor will respond personally if the Ninth Fleet fails. Their hierarchical psychology cannot tolerate such a significant defeat without direct intervention. Then we prepare for that eventuality, Elena responds. Phase 1 targets their military capabilities. Phase 2 must target their belief in their own superiority. As the Council discusses specific tactical assignments, Elena steps away briefly, finding a quiet moment to gaze through a cracked window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the Ninth Fleet approaches, its commander confident in overwhelming victory against primitive rebels. They've studied our weapons, our ships, our technology, she whispers to herself. But they've never bothered to study our stories, how humans have always overcome impossible odds through sheer stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Around her, humans work alongside beings from across the galaxy, floating crystalline Vrax engineers optimizing communication systems, methane-breathing Kull warriors demonstrating stealth techniques, hive-mind Droma analysts processing tactical data, species that had never cooperated now united by a common enemy, and more importantly, by humanity's unique ability to build bridges across seemingly unbridgeable differences. The revolution wasn't just beginning, it was evolving into something the galaxy had never seen before. The Imperial Dreadnought's shadow crawls across the Pacific like a solar eclipse, communications channels flooding with panicked reports from coastal cities. Elena stands on the bridge of the retrofitted command vessel Defiance, formerly a Zalthori cruiser, now piloted by a mixed crew of humans and allies. Emperor Xandrak is transmitting on all frequencies, Lieutenant Park announces from the communications station. Let's hear what he has to say, Elena responds, her calm voice steadying the nervous bridge crew. The Emperor's image materializes on the main view screen, 7 centuries of absolute rule etched into his chitinous features. His voice resonates with the artificial harmonics used by Zalthori nobility to convey authority. Inhabitants of Earth, your resistance has proven unexpectedly troublesome, but ultimately futile. I offer one final opportunity for surrender. Comply, and your species will be permitted to continue existing under direct Imperial oversight. Refuse, and this world will be reduced to radioactive ash, as was Proxima Colony. Elena signals to cut the transmission. He's expecting either immediate capitulation or a desperate conventional assault, she tells her officers. Predictable responses that his tactical systems have modeled extensively. She turns to her tactical officer. Execute Operation Impossible Angle. Across Earth's atmosphere, the seemingly disorganized collection of resistance vessels suddenly shifts formation. The unarmed transports, appearing on Zalthori sensors as civilian evacuation vessels, accelerate directly toward the Imperial flagship. On the Dreadnought's command deck, Emperor Xandrak observes the approaching transports with disdain. Primitive suicide tactics, he notes to his commanders. Calculate their impact damage. Negligible, Imperial Majesty, responds his tactical officer. Their vessels lack warheads and will be vaporized by our outer defense screens. They pose no threat. This assessment proves catastrophically wrong when the transport ships, seconds before impact, simultaneously detonate specialized electromagnetic pulse generators developed by combining Vrax quantum technology with human theoretical physics. The sequential detonations create a precisely calibrated cascade effect, a concept the Zalthori had dismissed as mathematically impossible. For exactly 23 seconds, the Dreadnought's shields flicker and fail. Now, Marcus, Elena commands, through their secure channel. Marcus, piloting a modified research vessel designed to appear as debris on enemy scanners, maneuvers precisely through the momentary gap in the flagship's defenses. His ship's payload, a carefully engineered delivery system containing bacteria harvested from Earth's deep ocean vents, disperses through the dreadnought's ventilation intakes. The microorganisms, harmless to humans but devastating to Zalthori, biology, spread through the vessel's life support systems. Within minutes, the once disciplined bridge crew begins experiencing symptoms, not fatal, but debilitating enough to disrupt the chain of command. Emperor Xandrak, protected by his personal life support system, watches in disbelief as his flagship systems begin failing in cascading sequence. Impossible, he hisses. Their technology is too primitive to penetrate our defenses. His chief science officer, struggling to remain conscious, manages to scan the spreading contagion. It's not technology, Imperial Majesty, he reports with growing horror. It's biology, microscopic organisms engineered to target our specific physiology. They've weaponized their planet's natural ecosystem against us. Outside, the battle unfolds in ways no Zalthori tactical simulation could have predicted. Human pilots execute maneuvers considered suicidally reckless by Imperial standards, using the planet's gravity and atmosphere in ways the Zalthori, evolved on a world with lower gravity and thinner atmosphere, never thought to defend against. Secondary explosions ripple across the dreadnought's hull. Emperor Xandrak faces an unthinkable reality. The most advanced military force in galactic history is being defeated by a species that had achieved spaceflight less than 2 centuries. Ego. As the debate in the Galactic Assembly enters its 3rd week, tensions rise between various factions. The Krell delegation pounds their armored appendages against the speaking platform, demanding the complete dismantling of Zalthori civilization. The Vrax representatives flicker with patterns of righteous vindication, advocating for the seizure of all Imperial technology. Even among humanity's closest allies, the desire for retribution threatens to overwhelm the fragile coalition. Elena rises from her seat, the Admiral's insignia on her uniform reflecting the chamber's light. When she speaks, her voice carries the weight of someone who has witnessed both the worst of war and the best of cooperation. I understand the call for justice, she acknowledges, her words translated simultaneously into 200 different languages and communication forms. Every species here has suffered under Zalthori rule. My own world lost millions. She pauses, letting the translator devices catch up. But there is a fundamental difference between justice and vengeance. The chamber quiets as she activates a holographic display showing Earth's historical conflicts. Humanity has fought countless wars against itself. After our most devastating global conflicts, we learned a crucial lesson. Lasting peace requires not just victory, but reconciliation. The Krell war chief interrupts, mandibles clicking furiously. Your species speaks of mercy from a position of victory. You did not endure 7 centuries of oppression. No, Elena agrees. But we've studied enough history to know that empires built on retribution invariably become what they sought to replace. She gestures toward the Zalthori delegation, their once proud forms now diminished. The Commonwealth we propose isn't about forgetting the past. It's about creating a future where such domination becomes impossible, for anyone. Marcus steps forward, projection data streaming from his tablet. Our proposal incorporates separated powers and specialized contributions from each member species. The Zalthori computational efficiency would be directed toward solving resource distribution challenges. The Vrax information storage capabilities would preserve cultural heritage. The Krell defensive strengths would protect all Commonwealth worlds equally. And humans? Asks the methane-breathing Kull representative skeptically. What would your role be in this? Commonwealth? Innovation and mediation? Elena answers simply. Our adaptability allows us to bridge physiological and psychological gaps between species that have never successfully communicated before. We don't seek to rule, we seek to connect. The chamber erupts in multiple conversations, some supportive, others doubtful. The eldest Vrax delegate approaches Elena during the recess, crystal body refracting light in patterns that convey deep contemplation. Your species proposes something unprecedented, the elder communicates. Not domination, not separation, but genuine cooperation between fundamentally different forms of life. Many doubt this is possible. Elena watches as representatives from dozens of species cautiously interact across the chamber. Former enemies sharing information, comparing experiences under Imperial rule, finding unexpected common ground. "Look around you," she tells the Vrax elder. "It's already beginning." Later that evening, as the assembly adjourns for the day, Elena finds the Zalthori representative waiting in a quiet corridor. Zevnar, once a high counselor to the Emperor, now speaks for what remains of the Imperial government. "Why?" he asks simply. "You could destroy us completely. Your coalition has the numbers, the resources, and now the technology. Why offer us a place in your commonwealth?" Elena studies him thoughtfully before answering. "Because the true measure of a civilization isn't found in how it treats its allies, but in how it treats its former enemies. That's something we learned from our own bloody history, a lesson your empire never had the opportunity to learn." Captain Sasha Novak stands on the bridge of the Commonwealth exploration vessel Horizon, gazing at the holographic representation of the newly discovered world rotating slowly above the central console. 20 years of exploration have taken her to hundreds of star systems, but this planet, with its azure oceans and emerald continents, strikes her as particularly beautiful. "Life signs confirmed, Captain," reports Science Officer Tiknar, a young Zalthori whose ancestors once occupied Earth. Now he works alongside the species his people once subjugated, his natural computational abilities enhanced by human-inspired creative thinking. Preliminary scans suggest development equivalent to Earth's Mesozoic era. A world at the dawn of complex life, Sasha muses. Plot standard observation protocols, non-interference parameters. We'll establish a long-term monitoring station in high orbit. As the crew efficiently carries out her orders, Sasha reflects on how far they've come. The Horizon's crew represents 17 species working in perfect harmony. Their differences transformed into complementary strengths. The Krell security chief, whose natural armor makes him ideal for hazardous exploration. The Vrax communications officer, whose crystalline body can process and store vast amounts of information. The methane-breathing Kull, whose unique perception allows detection of energy signatures others would miss. Back on Earth, Admiral Elena Reyes addresses the Grand Assembly chamber, her once dark hair now streaked with silver. The Commonwealth capital rises around her, a marvel of cooperative architecture, incorporating elements from hundreds of worlds. Representatives from over 300 species listen as she presents the annual exploration report. 20 years ago, we stood here as uncertain allies, bound together by victory but divided by centuries of mistrust, she begins. Today, we stand as partners in the greatest peaceful expansion in galactic history. Our exploration fleet has cataloged 1,423 new worlds, established diplomatic relations with 32 previously unknown spacefaring civilizations, and extended Commonwealth protection to 17 developing species. From his position in the diplomatic gallery, former Emperor Xandrak observes the proceedings with thoughtful eyes. Once the most feared ruler in the galaxy, he now serves as an elder advisor on governmental reform. The centuries of his life have given him perspective few others possess. "I once commanded 1,000 worlds through fear," he confides to Marcus seated beside him. "Yet in all my centuries I never witnessed anything like this. Genuine cooperation between species so fundamentally different." Marcus, his hair now white but his mind still sharp, nods in understanding. "That's what your empire never grasped about humanity. You saw our differences as chaotic inefficiency. You never understood that diversity, both within our species and now between species, creates resilience through multiple perspectives." As new star systems appear on the Assembly's massive galactic display, Elena concludes her address with words that will be recorded in the histories of 100 worlds. "We venture into the unknown not to conquer or to exploit, but to understand. We offer not subjugation but partnership. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy, the radical notion that our differences need not divide us, but can unite us in ways stronger than any empire built on force." The assembly erupts in a cacophony, of approval expressed in hundreds of different forms, from the thunderous pounding of Krell appendages to the luminescent pulsing of droma swarms, to the harmonic vibrations of crystalline vracs. In this moment, the transformation is complete. The species that once barely reached its own moon now shepherds an interstellar civilization spanning thousands of light years, not through conquest, but through humanity's unique capacity to build bridges across the stars.